Namaskar to all of you. So this series of lectures on Avadhanakala is conceived and curated by the Center for Human Sciences as a part of its project on Avadhanakala, sponsored by the IKS Division of Ministry of Education. And before the various topics related to Avadhanakala are addressed by other experts, scholars who have spent enormous time in researching into this kala, this art form, and then who themselves have been practicing this Avadhan kala for a longer period of time. So I thought that we begin this whole series with an introduction to what on various aspects of Avadhan Kala. Also will be giving a little bit of introduction to the Avadhanakala in their own way. So all those who are participating, I'm sure by the time this series is over, by listening to 12 different topics, by listening to 12 different experts, all the participants will be definitely benefiting a lot from the discussions that will take place here. Yes. So in our day-to-day life, we do observe that many times mind is not just focused on one aspect. At the same time, something going on in the periphery. We do take note of it while driving, while eating, while studying, while contemplating on one thing. We do contemplate on various other things which keep happening around us, whether it is a sound, whether it is something to be seen, whether it is something to be smelt, something to be felt, every aspect of our senses. Many things keep happening simultaneously. Just imagine, you all must have seen there are tribal ladies moving on the roads or going in the villages. These tribal ladies will be carrying several pots on their heads. A baby will be hanging around their neck in the front. On the back, there will be a lot of other belongings. They will be walking through the rough roads, talking with each other. Hands also sometimes will be busy stitching some sweater or doing something, whatever they do. Just imagine how many things they do simultaneously. Now, people while drawing rangoli, the same thing happens. Such perfection they bring to their art form, yet while doing that, they keep talking, they keep attending to other things. Simultaneous happening, a mind attending to several things simultaneously is a part of our day-to-day life. Yet, this is not Avadhanam. Now, what is Avadhanam? Avadhanam is a Sanskrit word which also exists in many Indian languages, which basically means concentration. attention or concentrated attention. So all our activities where our mind is involved in several things simultaneously will not fall under the avadhana activity, simply because in avadhanam much awareness is needed. All that is happening, I give you the example of the tribal ladies. Just imagine of the circus men, how many different things, what kind of skill, with what level of concentration and attention they do, they perform. Look at their physical, emotional, mental, psychological balance. But they will not be called avadhani in its true sense. One can see the ekagrata in them, one can see the skill in them, but this skill or the different skills are acquired or it's performed, displayed, showcased in a very mechanical way. There is less awareness in such activities which keep happening around the world, around us, or in our ordinary life. Now, avadhana demands a greater awareness. Just imagine thousands and thousands of years before, in the Gurukulas, children practicing, memorizing thousands of Veda mantras, committing those mantras into their memory flawlessly. What amount of attention, what amount of concentration it would have demanded, or it must be demanded, not just in the ancient time, even now. Many Gurukulas, the children do practice, memorize enormous amount of texts. And every Veda learner in the ancient time was called Avadhani. And there were various games which were various tricks, various games which were prevalent during that time, puzzles, riddles, just to test the accuracy of a memorization of each other. For example, like one of the vatus or the brahmachari who is practicing, or avadhani, the Veda learner, would recite a mantra and drop few characters or drop a line, drop a word. Others have to fill it up or point it out to him that you have dropped these characters, you have dropped these words. So this way, various small activities were prevalent during or amongst the Veda learners. And slowly moving ahead, this avadhana, these small activities or various activities connected with the memorization, connected with the concentrated attention, connected with ekagrata, were transformed into various other art forms in our tradition. And these different art forms are called the Avadhanakala. It took a kind of shape, art form, beautiful art forms. So we will be discussing about various art forms, the Avadhan forms, which developed, which are existing, but this Avadhanakala is not very popular all over. To a great extent, this Avadhanakala is preserved and is alive in most part of Andhra Pradesh, in the East Godavari district, that can be seen as the hub of Avadhanis or Avadhanakala. And to some extent, you find it in Karnataka, in some portions of Karnataka. The practice of Avadhana happens, and slowly I will explain you the different forms that the Avadhana took. But it is all about the mind's power of concentration, observation, memory, attention, creativity, imagination. These are central to the practice of Avadhanakala. The development of mind was given much importance in our education system. Ordinarily, the human mind is not capable of performing to its highest potential. It is said that, like some 3 to 5% of mind's potentiality is in use. It has tremendous. Think of Swami Vivekananda. What tremendous amount of concentration and memory he had. One can just, like open a page of a book which he is familiar with and then ask him. In detail, he will say on that page what existed. He had developed the photographic memory. Just one glance and a page is remembered. A paragraph is remembered. And that is retained in his memory. He can recollect it and then reproduce it. So mind, even Swami Vivekananda said that if he had to, or he has to do the reschooling, he will not go to the school. He would rather develop the power of concentration. And with that developed power of concentration, he would study the fact act of will. And concentration is the key to success in every aspect of life. Whether someone wants to become a scientist, someone wants to become an athlete, someone wants to become something in life. Without concentration, it cannot happen. And to make the mind concentrated, to make it ekagra is the most difficult task. But there lies the success. And Avadhanakala, what we will be discussing, just you will see that how our ancient Indian people, our education system had given so much of importance to the cognitive development and what kind of activities were around developing the mind and making it silent, making it ekagra, concentrated, so then it can perform well. So coming to the Avadhan, I mean, much can be said about it, but I'll just give a simple introduction to the overall aspect of Avadhanakala, so then every day listening to different experts, you will understand link, and then you will become clear about the entire art form that exists today, but very rarely people practice. It's a rare art form, and then it needs much spreading all over. Much awareness needs to be spread with regard to Avadhanakala, and also the principles of Avadhanakala, they have to be brought and implemented in our day-to-day life, in our education system. For that also, like we have developed various programs, how Avadhanakala can be, the principles of Avadhanakala can be useful and implemented in our day-to-day life and in the classroom, in the education system. So Avadhana, moving ahead, became, took different art forms. The most important art form that it took was the Sahitya Avadhana. There are varieties of Avadhanam which I will discuss. So maybe let me share my screen, so then looking at it, you will become clear about various terminologies and the different art forms that it took. Then I will explain each thing which will be appearing on the screen. So Avadhanakala the Vedic art of multiple concentration. You see, this ancient art form, it demands much concentration, much attention, and it is both creative and retentive faculties in this art form, both the creative and retentive faculties of the mind, they are utilized to a great extent in different proportions and in different ways. Now, in an Avadhanam, the person who practices the Avadhanam is called Avadhani. These are the terminologies you need to keep in mind. The person who does the Avadhana is called Avadhani. He is central to this whole art form. Now, this Avadhani exhibits, showcases the power of simultaneous and multiple concentration. You may be hearing from modern psychologists that this simultaneous or multiple concentration is an impossibility. Things cannot happen in a simultaneous manner. This is another subject where we are trying to bring some psychologists also to study it from the psychological perspective. We will be dealing with this subject and we will be coming out with another 1 or 2 lectures by some experts where they will link it, what is possible and what happens when an Avadhana performance is taking place. That's a different subject. Of course, we will be dealing with that. But once you know about it and then see the Avadhanam happening, then you will understand whether this simultaneous multiple concentration is a possibility or not. Now, the Avadhani exhibits or showcases this power of simultaneous and multiple concentration on varieties of topics, ranges of topics, the topics belonging to various realms. It can belong to the literature, music, astronomy, astrology, medical sciences, and several other disciplines. Now, the more entertaining and educative form of Avadhana is mainly seen in what is called Sahitya Avadhana or Kavitva Avadhana. Again, please do remember these terms because these terms most of the speakers will be using during their performances. Why it is the most entertaining educative form? Because when you come to Avadhana and various Avadhanis are practicing Sahitya Avadhana or Kavitva Avadhana than any other form of Avadhana. Where means like in Sahitya Avadhana and in Kavitva Avadhana, the emphasis is always on the literary topics. Now, what happens in an Avadhana? The Avadhani is surrounded by a set of questioners. How many questioners? That also we will discuss going ahead. The number of questioners also matters. But the Avadhani is surrounded by a set of questioners, a group of questioners. And these questioners ask different types of questions. And they provide many specifications, various tasks they give to the Avadhani. And what is demanded of the Avadhani? That the Avadhani, the central person, he has to listen to the question very patiently, very silently, quietly, attentively, remember the question, and step by step, in 4 rounds, the Avadhani has to answer to the questions raised by various questioners by creating extempore poetry. So here, please remember, the entire performance in Sahitya Avadhana has to happen in 4 rounds. Why 4 rounds? Here again lies the difficulty in the performance of Avadhana. The Avadhani has to answer to the questioners by creating extempore poetry in poetry form. And poetry in Sanskrit has to have, the poetry has to have four metrical lines. Four metrical lines together form a poetry, form a shloka. So in the first round, the Avadhani will listen to the various questioners and answer them by creating only one line. In the first round, he will be providing only one line in response to the question asked by the questioners. In the second round, no questioner is going to repeat the question. Now the Avadhani has to remember the question, remember the first line that he composed, and continue from there to supply the second line in answer to the questions of each questioner. In the third round, the same process will be repeated. In the fourth round, the same process will be repeated. The questions are asked only once, but he has to give answer by creating extempore poetry in 4 rounds. Avadhani's mind to remember, reproduce, and his ability to concentrate his attention and his ability to create extempore poetry and his ability to handle the situation. This is not just everything about Avadhanam. Moving ahead, I will explain you the different challenges that the Avadhani faces. So the whole show, now what happens that the Avadhani cannot keep any pen, paper, or any gadget, any sadhan for noting down. He has to listen, answer. Listen, remember, answer. There may be someone else. So for example, like in any Avadhan performance, there will be one Adhyaksha, a supervisor, a chairperson. He will be noting down everything. So then, finally, when the Avadhani has to do the dharana, the final stage is called dharana stage. Just for the understanding, I'm explaining that is the final stage. That may not be the final stage in some of the performances. So for our understanding, we keep it because Avadhani was giving only one line in every round. At the dharana stage, he has to remember the question and then repeat the entire verse that he created in 4 rounds for the audience. He has to do it for each questioner. Now, how many questioners an Avadhani is surrounded? This is the question. The Avadhani can be surrounded by any number of questioners. They can be 2, 3, 4, 5, up to, there's no limit to it. The most popular form of Avadhanam is known as Ashta Avadhanam or Ashtavadhanam. In Ashtavadhanam, there are 8 questioners, 8 different items. These items again vary from Avadhani to Avadhani or performance to performance. Though something in common is retained, 1 or 2 items, they differ from Avadhani to Avadhani. They also introduce new topics to prove their ability to handle the situation more accurately or more strongly. Sometimes the Avadhanis, they also create many more items which are very challenging. And this is where the uniqueness of this Avadhanis lies, that person is expert in this. That's why that will be an item. I'll give you some of the examples moving ahead. Now, Ashta Avadhanam demands 8 questioners to be there, 8 items to be there. And the performer who is surrounded by ashta or 8 of pruchakas, the questioners are known as pruchakas. In the case of Ashtavadhanam, 8 pruchakas, they ask questions. So Avadhani, who is successful in handling these questions and successful in his performance without fail, he is known, he is declared to be Ashtavadhani. Similarly, there are people who answer to 50 questioners, answer to 100 questioners. But the popular form is not 50 but 100. From 8 directly 100. So there are Shatavadhanis, very successful Shatavadhanis existing today. They attend to 100 different questioners, asking them questions on 100 different items. And there are successful Sahasravadhanis. They attend to 1,000 questioners. 1,000 questioners. The items may be repeated, but differently they will be posed before the Avadhanis. Ashtavadhanam is a performance of 2.5 to 3 hours. It may happen that it continues to 4 hours, but that's the time limit for Ashtavadhanam. 2.5 to 3 hours maximum it can happen. It happens. Shatavadhanam is a performance of 2 days. At the end of the second day, the Avadhani is in a position to remember and reproduce all that happened in the previous hours. Sahasravadhana takes 20 days. Just imagine the ability of concentration, memory, observation, imagination, creativity of the Sahasravadhani, who is capable of reproducing, remembering and reproducing on the 20th day all that happened in the previous 19 days. The origin of this art of multiple concentration, as I mentioned right in the beginning, it can be traced back to the age of the oral tradition of Vedic learning. Of course, there are various other scriptures, other texts in ancient India which deal with various aspects of Avadhanam. We are not going in detail to that. Apart from what I mentioned, that Ashta Avadhana, what are the different types of Avadhanam which are available in the literature or in the tradition? See, the Kavitva Avadhana or Sahitya Avadhana, where the topic is poetry, literature. You have Sangeeta Avadhana, where music is the subject. You have Vaidya Avadhana, where the medical science, Ayurveda, is the subject matter. Jyotisha Avadhana, astrology. Trina Avadhana, it's not very clear what is this form of Avadhana, but it seems that the modern mikados that we play with, like a bunch of sticks we throw, and then with one stick, we have to remove the other sticks without disturbing any other stick connected to that. So maybe that, or maybe something else, I'm not sure. So I have not yet found any description about Trunavadhana, but the term exists. Then Bhujavadhana, maybe the different kinds of movements of the arms through which something is communicated, and all those who are doing this, practicing this, they can decode the message by looking at the different movement of the arms. Ghantavadhana is an amazing practice again, where a person can be sitting with a bell or a dish with a spoon, and some message is given to that person, which he or she, whoever is practicing this Ghantavadhana, is sitting with the partner. So he or she, that Ghantavadhani, will be decoding the message given by the audience in a written form, passed on to the Ghantavadhani. So that Ghantavadhani will be playing the sound on the on a plate or on any kind of like metal in a manner that the Ghantavadhani is decoding the message through sounds, and the other Ghantavadhani who is sitting in front has to very attentively listen to the sounds and then decipher what is being decoded or communicated through these different sound patterns. And I myself have experienced it. In the month of September, we did an Avadhana Sangama in Tirupati, National Sanskrit University, where we had invited a Ghantavadhan, I mean, two people. They performed it, and then we gave them in various languages the messages, and the messages were accurately deciphered, decoded, and presented. Amazing art form. Similarly, we have Hasta Chalani. Like you must have seen that many Veda parties, they do the hand movements. So through the hand movements, also something can be communicated. And the other Avadhani, looking at the different hand movements, can decode the message and then reproduce it. Same thing with Netra Avadhana, where the message is conveyed through the different eye movements, different eye positions. In the Avadhana Sangama, we also had invited two Netravadhanis who performed amazingly. Your language is not a barrier. We gave them in English, in Marathi, in Sanskrit, in Kannada, whatever the language may be, they decode it. So, and then reproduce the message by looking at the hand movements or the sounds or the eye movements. Similarly, Chotika Avadhan. Chotika means snapping of the hand. So through that also message is conveyed. Then we have Nritya Avadhana, which is connected with the dance. Then we have Chaturanga Avadhana, which is connected with chess. We have Ganita Avadhana. There are excellent Ganita Avadhanis. So there are various prakriyas also, like various methods, various items which are involved in Ganita Avadhana. Then we have Shabda Avadhana, the different sounds. Say, for example, in the background, sound of a glass item can be produced. The Avadhani has to listen and then say that, okay, it's a glass bell, it's a wooden bell, it's a metal bell, or it's a brass bell, it's a ceramic bell. So the bells of different types, different materials can be collected on. Just remember the different sizes, even in the same metal, the different sizes of the bells produce different sounds. So bells of different sizes, different metals, different materials, they are kept together in Shabdavadhana, and the Avadhani's potential is tested by playing those sounds. The Avadhani has to listen carefully and then say that, okay, this was the wooden bell, or the wooden bell rang for 5 minutes, 5 times, and the glass bell sounded 2 times, and the ceramic bell sounded 3 times. So accurately, the Avadhani has to reproduce. Similarly, we have Talavadhana. In Avadhana Sangam, we also had invited Talavadhani. Talavadhanis, they sing and then they perform two different talas using their left and right hands simultaneously. So left hand playing one tala and the right hand playing another tala, and at the same time they are singing, and there is a point of meeting point of the both the talas. Similarly, Gita Avadhana, Amarakosha Avadhana, Yoga Sutra Avadhana, Sangita Geya Dhara. These are the different types of Avadhanam which are existing now. Amazing. Like, for example, like Gita Avadhana, There are 8 different items again where the subject matter is only Gita shlokas. Various riddles, puzzles, questions can be raised to the Gita Avadhana. Similarly, in Amarakosha Avadhana, the Amarakosha is the subject matter. And these Avadhanis, they have by-hearted the entire Gita, entire Amarakosha, entire Yoga Sutra, the entire text, and their memory, their power to remember, reproduce is tested through this Avadhana art form. Sangita Gayadhara, which I experienced for the first time, was an amazing where there is a whole set of musicians sitting with their instruments, and the person who does the Sangita Gaya Dhara Avadhani, he sits in the middle with his own instrument. Then audience can give specifications, can describe something. Say, for example, like Krishna's stealing of butter, or some samvad with Yashoda. There's a description which is given by someone in the audience. At the same time, he's asked that using a particular raga and a tala, please compose. So in Sangita Gayadhara, what happens? The musicians will start playing. The composition happens on the spot. And the person who is the Sangita Gayadhara Avadhani, he has to compose the lyrics and sing along simultaneously, spontaneously. Is it not amazing? Unimaginable. So this is how various Avadhana art forms which existed, and some of these are in practice, but very rarely people are seen to have practiced this. For example, like many Talavadhanis, you do not have many Netravadhanis, you do not have many Ghantavadhanis, you do not have many Sangita Gayadhara Avadhanis. They're very, very rare. Now, what we are trying to do is like collect information, do a little bit of research, and then who are these people? How do they practice? What kind of discipline they follow? So we have documented all these things, and then we're producing literature around it. Then I'll explain you the nature of Ashta Avadhana. What are these 8 different types of 8 different types of questioners, and what items do they deal with while the Avadhani is attending to them? So in Ashtavadhana, the Avadhani has to confront 8 different scholarly people who ask questions on 8 different items. So the 8 different items are here. I'll explain you one by one. There's no first, second, third, but for like convenience in our understanding and explanation, so I will use first, second, third like that. But there is no particular order that it has to happen. It can anyone can begin, or it can end with anyone, or it can begin with anyone. The order can change during the performance. But in most of the Avadhanas, it begins with a Nishidhakshari. So what is a Nishidhakshara? Just imagine, bring to your imagination that the Avadhani is sitting in the center, 4 people on his left side, 4 people on his right side. Now the Nishidhakshari, now the Adhyaksha gives the permission that now the Avadhana will begin. So he indicates to Nishidhakshari to ask his question. Now in the first round, remember this fact that the entire feat is going to take place in 4 rounds. Now the Avadhani will look at Nishidhakshari, who will be posing the question. Nishidhakshari, it means Nishiddha Akshara, prohibition of letter. Now this particular questioner is extremely important and is the most difficult thing to be composed, to handle. Nishidhakshari will give some specifications. Nishidhakshari will say that Avadhani Mahoday, please compose a verse, say, on Sri Ganesh or Swami Vivekananda in Anushtup meter. So the questioner, Nishidhakshari questioner, will specify a topic and specify a meter. This is common to every questioner. They will specify a topic and a meter. So Avadhani has no choice that he can compose in any meter of his choice. No, he has to listen to the specifications of all the questioners. Now, particularly for this question, so the moment the question is asked, say for example, for other questioners, the Avadhani will start reciting while giving the first line in answer to the question, following the specifications. Particularly for Nishidhakshari, the Avadhani again has no right to compose it in one go, the first line. This composition has to happen letter by letter, syllable by syllable. The Avadhani will say just one syllable, keeping a word in his mind, that word which has to fit into the topic and the meter, the grammar of the language, and the description that is there. So once he gives one syllable, he will wait for the Nishidhakshari questioner to anticipate what word the Avadhani has in his mind. And if the Nishidhakshari can anticipate a right, will prohibit the use of the next letter. Now the Avadhani is in a problem. So he has to change the word. That's why most of the times the Nishidhakshari, when the Avadhanis are dealing with, they do not keep one single word in their mind. 10 different possibilities. All possibilities they will be keeping in the mind. So then they can put, so each one will be trying to put each one in trouble. This is how syllable by syllable the Avadhani will compose one line following the specifications, the topic and the meter, and dealing with this prohibition of letters, give one line and turn to the second questioner, Samasya. Now, Samasya, it's a Samasya Purti or Samasya Purana, is a very popular form where what happens, suppose you have got 4 metrical lines which gives you a complete poem. In Samasya Purana, one line containing some kind of riddle, paradox, some enigmatic content, which will be given to the Avadhani, which is a very puzzling kind of thing. Now the Avadhani has to compose another 3 lines and then give a solution to the puzzle or the problem which is there. That's why it's called Samasya Purti. The problem has to be solved. And this Samasya Purana, the line which is given by the Samasya questioner, has to become the 4th line or the last line. I'll give you one example. Once one Avadhani was asked by the Samasya questioner, Pritchaka, Mrugat Simha Palayate. It means Mrugat means from a deer, Simha, lion, Palayate runs away. This is a problem. Does it happen that a deer will, a lion will run away from the deer? No. Now look how the Avadhani managed this immediately, and it has to be instantaneously, it has to be solved, and spontaneous composition has to take place. So immediately the Avadhani has to, so he has to have a very clever mind. Immediately he has to think of something and produce. So the Avadhani immediately thought of a dialogue between Karna and Arjuna in the battlefield. Now Karna tells Arjuna, Tishtha, stand, Arjuna, O Arjuna, Adya Sangrame, today in the battlefield, Hanishyami, I will kill, Tvam, to you, Sharehi, by my arrows. Tishtharjunadya Sangrame. Second line. Hanishyami Tvamaham Sharehi. Then Arjuna is replying back to Karna saying that Tishtami, I stand, I'm not running away. Moodha karna, O foolish karna. Kim, mrugat simha palayate. Does a lion run away from the deer? This is how, just by adding Kim, he has given a solution to the samasya. So this is how the samasya purti takes place. So in every avadhana, ashta avadhana, in Sahitya Avadhana, a samasya is given, samasya pankti, samasya line is given, following the metrical pattern in which the samasya pankti line is given, the Avadhani has to compose in the same meter. Now here meter is not specified, but the Avadhani has to, because he also has to be an expert in various shastras, in the Vyakaran, in the Alankara Shastra, in the Sahitya Shastra, in the Veda Shastra, in the Jyotisha Shastra, in the Chanda Shastra, in the Nirukta Shastra. So he has to have expertise in various Shastras. That is why this Avadhana tradition has, it showcases what wonderful, uh, you know, uh, civilization or civilizational values that we carried, what kind of inheritance we have, what kind of knowledge system that we have, what kind of discipline that we have. We could produce such minds, brilliant minds. Now, after Samasya Purti, there is Dattapadi. Dattapadi means given words. The words which are given, datta, given. Now, dattapadi, in dattapadi, what happens? Someone has to, this questioner gives 4 unrelated words. These 4 unrelated words, then the questioner says that, Avadhani Mahoday, these are 4 different words. Then he specifies a meter, specifies a topic, and the Avadhani has to compose a verse using these 4 words, making them fit into the topic, the grammar, the chandas, and then reproduce a verse. And sometimes the names of cricket stars, names of film stars, or some English words which are given to the Avadhani. So then he has to make it fit. And the Avadhani, and especially when we have noticed most of the Avadhana performances, whether it is Durbal Prabhakar Sharma or Shatavadhani R. Ganesh or various other Avadhanis, and now many young Avadhanis are also coming up. They do a very, amazing verses they create in Dattapadi. It's amazing to see how do they connect on related words to a topic and then make them fit into the chandas, the metrical pattern, and everything goes well. So Dattapadi. Then you have Varnana. Varnana means a description. So description means like some contemporary event or some breaking news. So for example, is taken, it is described. And along with the description, meter is specified, and in that meter, following that metrical pattern, the Avadhani has to compose a verse. A description is given, a meter is specified, and following that, the Avadhani has to give in 4 rounds a complete verse. Just to give you an example, because I also, like on my own, sometimes keep trying some of these Avadhana aspects. So once there was a friend with me, and I took this opportunity to compose something. So we said that let's do a Dattapadi item. So the words which were given to me was marma, karma, varma, and sharma. Marma, the sensitive aspects or the sensitive points are known as marma. Karma, you understand, which is the action, the deed. Then varma is the protection, like kavacha, varma. Then you have sharma. Sharma is happiness. So and anushtup was the meter which was given. So anushtup meter, Marma, karma, varma, sharma are the 4 words which were given to me. Then I composed this verse. Janasi mama marma tvam janeham karma te khilam tyaktva aham rupakam varma lapsyeham sharma shashvatam. Most of you who do not understand the Sanskrit part, so the English translation of this can be like Janasi mama marma tvam. Like Janasi means you know. Mama marma, my secrets you know. Janasi mama marma tvam. Jane ham karma te khilam. That te akhilam karma aham janan. And I know all your deeds. You know all my secrets. I know all your deeds. Then tektva aham rupakam varma. Varma means protection. Varma also means a veil. Varma means something which covers. So, having given up the covering of ego, lapseham sharma shashwatam. So, may I attain to shashwatam sharma, shashwatam sukham. May I attain to eternal happiness by giving up the covering, the veil of ahankara or the ego. So, that's the composition which I had made that day as a Dattapadi item. So I explained you Nishidhakshari, Samasya, Dattapadi, Varnana. Then you have Ashu. Ashu means quick, uninterrupted, spontaneous, non-stop. These are non-stop compositions, breathless compositions sometimes. So in Ashu, what I mean, this is the only item in Ashtavadhanam or Shatavadhanam in the Sahitya Avadhana where the Avadhani will not compose only one line in one round. He has to compose following the specifications of the topic and the meter. He has to compose an entire poem immediately. So that means in any Avadhana program, if there is Ashu as a part of it, in some Avadhanam, Ashu may not be a part. There may be something else as a part. If Ashu is a part of the Avadhana performance, then the Avadhani has to compose 4 complete poems in 4 rounds because it has to be a complete poem. Now, these are the 5 easy to handle items for the Avadhani. The next 3 items, they create more challenges for the Avadhani. The 6th one is Vyastakshari. Vyastakshari means, Vyasta means scattered. Akshara, syllables. So what happens in this? A Vyastakshari Prichaka will have a verse in his mind. It may be his composition or it may be some composition from somewhere. Suppose that particular verse or composition has got 32 syllables. Suppose he chooses an Anushtup Shlok. Anushtup will have 32 syllables altogether. Now the Vyastakshari person will give number to each syllable. Syllable number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 32nd. When the performance is going on intermittently, the Prichaka, Vyastakshari Prichaka, will keep saying, Avadhani Mahoday, I have a shloka in my mind, the 17th letter of which is, say, Kram. Then after some times he will say that the 22nd letter is this. After some times he will say that the 11th number is this. In a disorderly manner. So Vyasta Akshara. In a disorderly manner, intermittently, he will keep supplying these letters, syllables to the Avadhani. Now it is Avadhani's task, while attending to others, has to listen attentively, remember, rearrange, and tell at the end what was the verse in the mind of Vyastakshari. This increases the challenge for the Avadhani. This makes it, in a true sense, simultaneous, because he has to listen to the Vyastakshari, remember and rearrange while attending to others. Then you will have another person with a ghanta, with a bell. And this person, when the performance is going on, has to intermittently keep ringing the bell. He will go on ringing the bell. Now Avadhani's task while attending to others, listen, remember, and tell at the end what or how many times the bell rang when he was giving the performance. There will be others who will be keeping a note of that. So then whatever the Avadhani says, it is perfect, it is accurate. Sometimes ghanta is replaced by pushpatadana. That means someone from behind will be throwing flowers on the Avadhani. So the Avadhani has to feel and then tell at the end how many flowers were thrown on him. And there are various kinds of activities which are included in Avadhana. Now the last item here, known as aprastuta prasanga, literally meaning irrelevant to the context. This is the most difficult person to handle in any Avadhana. Why? Because he has nothing to do with what is happening in Avadhana. His only business, like you have in circus clowns, jokers. But aprastuta prasanga also has to be equally talented person. Sometimes they pose very difficult, situations. They create very difficult situations and challenges for the Avadhani. Now, aprastuta prasanga is only responsibility is to distract the Avadhani by posing, by distracting his mind from what he is doing, by posing various kinds of questions which are not related to Avadhanam. So he may say that when Avadhana is attending to a questioner or in the middle of the composition, he will say, Avadhani, did you have a love marriage or arranged marriage? Which TV channels you are interested in? Or he may give a long description. See, Avadhani, he's in that mood of composing something in response to the question. Now he is narrating a long story. Then from that story, he will pick up a question and then ask. Then on priority, the Avadhani has to satisfy aprastuta prasanga and continue from the point where he was interrupted. And to these, there are various other items which are added. For example, Ganita Avadhana, a Chaturanga Avadhana. Chaturanga means like while the Avadhani is attending to various questioners, can play chess with another person and then he has to win the chess. Or solve some mathematical problems. Or give description to an artist, or the artist can draw something, a part of an image. Like the artist will divide its whatever he wants to create into 4 parts, or he will draw something, then wait for the Avadhani to look at and then give the description in 1 line. In the second round, 2nd line. In the 3rd round, 3rd line. And in the 4th round, 4th line. So by that time, the artwork is complete by the artist and the description is completed by the Avadhani. So like this, there are various items which also become a part of this Avadhana. Now just imagine what level of concentration, what level of attentiveness, what level of creativity is needed for performing this Avadhana Kala. Now, the Avadhani is more than a mere poet. He must also possess great competence in handling varieties of subjects, a sharp intellect, a strong self-confidence, and a wide knowledge of Shastras, apart from his literary expertise and dexterity. A certain amount of showmanship is also necessary. For this, an amiable personality, a sense of humor, a melodious voice, and a flair of contemporary jargon are some important factors. So, the whole secret of Avadhana, it lies in the power of concentration, combined with a firm will, perseverance, can open all doors and leads to success in any endeavor, whether in the material or in the spiritual field. Following the principles or the discipline that an avadhani has. So, if we look at the various avadhanis who are alive today and then giving performances, look at their discipline, what amount of time they devote for bringing silence into their mind, increasing their memory power, their power of ekagrata. It's amazing. And if the same uh, powers are developed by anyone, one can succeed in any aspect of life. Now, these are the 5 principal characteristics of Avadhanakala, where you find dhara, means a spontaneity, a spontaneous flow of poetry or anything. You have dharana, means the concentration, attention, contemplation. You have dhairyam. Dhairyam means immense patience, steadiness one has to have. Dhorani means the tradition, that uninterrupted tradition that is there, that one follows. Dhishana, a sharp intellect. So these are the 5 principal characteristics of Avadhanakala, which every Avadhani follows. So there are these examples which I have noted, but that will take longer time, and most of the speakers will be speaking about Avadhanakala. Various aspects of Avadhanakala will be taking up various examples. So in an Avadhana performance, one experiences not only the great potentiality of the human mind, but also one wonders at the amazing flexibility and richness of the Sanskrit language. So the Avadhana at present, especially the Sahitya Avadhana, it takes place in Sanskrit, profusely in Telugu, and to some extent in Kannada. These are the 3 prominent languages in which Avadhana, Sahitya Avadhana takes place. But Sanskrit allows more flexibility. There are certain items which even may not be possible, or if possible with much difficulty, in any of the Indian languages, but Sanskrit allows that, especially Nishiddhakshari. And there's so much of beauty and value in India's ancient heritage and in Sanskrit, which is hidden or lost. This needs to be rediscovered, given a new form, and made a part of education and life. It would be of great benefit, not only to India, but to the whole world. So with these words, I end my deliberation. And if there are questions, I will be happy to answer and again explain further if it needs more explanation. Dhanyavad.